Hey, so good afternoon to everyone. And I'd like to welcome all present and our viewing and listening public to the 24th meeting of the Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure. I'd like to advise that the meeting is being broadcast live on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM and the Parliament's YouTube channel, Palview. My name is Deruk Timal. I'm the chairman of this Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure. And I'd like to invite the members of the committee to introduce themselves. We'll start with those who are physically present, and then we go to those who have joined us virtually.
Muhammad Ibrahim, member.
Thank you, member. For those who are joining us virtually, members, please introduce yourselves.
Lisa Morris Julian, Vice Chair and member.
Simon Dinogo, member.
Kenny Richards, member.
Anil Roberts, member.
Yeah, I think also we have member Padarat online.
Yes, Chairman. Barry Padarat, member.
And also member Dinobrega. Are you with us?
Yes, Chairman, Simon Dinobrega, member.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Just to remind everyone that the purpose of this meeting is to conduct the committee's second public hearing pursuant to its inquiry into the efficiency of road repairs, land slippages, and landslides throughout Trinidad and Tobago, with the officials from who we have here with us today, the Water and Sewerage Authority, Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, National Infrastructure Development Company, the Association of Professional Engineers of Trinidad and Tobago, and the University of the West Indies. We'll be using the acronyms WASA, TNTEC, NIDCO, APET, and UWI throughout the remainder of this inquiry. I'd just like to remind members, the public, and our entities representatives who are here with us today, that the objectives of this inquiry, the main objectives are threefold. One is to examine the current arrangements in place for the repair of road, land slippages, and landslides. Two, to examine the challenges faced in relation to the repair of roads, land slippages, and landslides. And thirdly, to determine the recommendations for improvement in the repair of roads, land slippages, and landslides. And so those are our main objectives here today. And I'd like to now engage the entities with their respective introduction or opening remarks. So what I'll do, I'll ask for the introduction of the chief official present. I'll call on you all one by one, so you can introduce yourself, and then have the rest of your team present with you here today introduce themselves, and then use the opportunity to also deliver some brief opening remarks as we begin our meeting here today. So I'll go first to Wasa.
Good afternoon, Chairman Ravi Nanga, Chairman of WASA, and we are indeed grateful for this opportunity to attend the JSC, and we give our commitment to assist the work of the JSC in whatever way we can. I have members of my team present. I would ask them to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, members, chair, colleagues. Kelvin Rumi, Water and Sewage Authority, acting CEO.
Good afternoon, chair, colleagues, members of the committee. My name is Shaira Ali, Water and Sewage Authority, Director of Operations.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee, and other colleagues. Roger Karim, Senior Manager, Regulatory Emergency Management, Water and Sewage Authority.
Thank you very much, Chairman Nanga, and to your team. We go now to TNTech. Yeah. So we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you well. From the TNTech end. No, it's still not coming across clear.
Right, are you hearing me any better?
Yes, a lot better now.
Yes? Okay, excellent. My name is Curtis Francois. I'm the Acting General Manager of TNTech. And I wish to thank yourself, Chairman, and the team for inviting us to participate in these discussions in terms of the challenges that we face, as well as some of the initiatives that we've taken with respect to the matter at hand. Thank you very much. Sean, I'll introduce my desk.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, all. I'm Sean Chase, Acting Chief Operating Officer, TNTech. Hi, good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, colleagues and also public. My name is Nigel Bob. I am the Acting Chief Technical Officer at TNTech.
Afternoon, Chair, members of the public. I'm John Coulthras, Acting Engineering Controller at TNTech.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members and member of the public. My name is David Sinclair, HSC Manager at TNTech.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Francois, and members of your team.
Thank you.
I'd like to go to NITCO.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Herbert George, Chairman of NITCO. We welcome this opportunity to appear before you to provide relevant information on the efficiency of road repairs, land slippages and landslide throughout Trinidad and Tobago. We shall be pleased to provide you with complete information to the best of our ability, especially where in many cases, or in some of the cases at least, what we say will be informed by the experience that we have had or the empirical data that we have garnered from the execution of our projects. As one of the major executing arms of government for its infrastructural projects, we have carried out projects within the area of the committee's interest. We are therefore prepared to assist the committee by reporting on both the success and challenges of our activities in the area. Mr. Chairman, we are at the committee's disposal to answer whatever questions that you might want to present us with or ask, and to assist with the deliberations. We are also prepared to report on both the successes and the challenges that we have faced in the execution of our projects. At this time, I will ask the rest of my team to introduce themselves and to say in closing that we are at the disposal of the committee to offer whatever assistance that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. I'm Esther Farmer, President NITCO.
Good afternoon, Chairman, other members of the committee and the public. My name is Dennis Haritran. I'm the manager of the Engineering and Project Management Department of NITCO.
Good afternoon, Chairman and all present. I am Laura Ganpat Ali, Procurement Manager at NITCO.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee, and fellow colleagues and members of the public. I am Ravi Sriram, Manager of Finance, Corporate Planning and Risk at NITCO.
Thank you very much, Mr. George and your team at NITCO. We go now to Apet.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, members of the committee. The Association of Professional Engineers welcomes the opportunity to participate in this discussion. As you're aware, the APET promotes the highest standards of professional practice, and we are dedicated to the engineering profession and its practice in the country. And we see many of the issues that are being considered by the committee as being quite relevant to the whole area of how engineering is practiced within the state and private sectors in Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, we welcome the opportunity to exchange ideas and to give our opinions about how things could be improved. We're all moving towards that as an objective. My other colleagues, I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Engineer Ian Cox, who is the Vice President of the Association.
Good afternoon all. Ian Cox, Vice President of APET. As the President indicated, we look forward to exchanges that would bring about improvements. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. Daryl Ravinanand, supporting member on the Civil Division Council of APET. My background is in geotechnical engineering. Hopefully, I could provide some insight into some of the challenges that I would have had in investigating landslips and road failures. Hopefully, it will be productive towards the objective of the committee.
Dr. Townsend, is that it for your team?
Yes, that is it first. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. And then University of the West Indies. Dr. Lee.
Good day, Chair, good members of the committee, members of the public. Dr. Lee Leon, lecturer in Highway and Pavement Engineering at the University of the West Indies. UE is delighted to be part of this gathering, which holds immense significance in the domain of road infrastructure development and administration. UE has consistently demonstrated excellence in research, academics, and community engagement, and is regarded as a leader in higher education in the Caribbean. That being said, UE looks forward to the discussion and are pleased to offer our perspective on the topic being discussed today.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lillian. So I think, yes, we have gone through the necessary introductions, and thanks everyone for the opening remarks. We would begin the questioning by the members of the committee. I'd just like to remind both committee members and officials if the questions can be directed through the chair, and any concerns you may have to direct them through the chair. Please keep your microphones muted until recognized by the chair, and I encourage everyone to use the raise hand feature because that is what I'll be using as a guide to engage those who are willing to make a contribution. Also, the viewing public and the listening public, you can submit your questions to the committee via the Parliament's YouTube channel and our social media platforms. I would now open the floor to members of the committee to ask questions. And I understand we'll be starting with Member Padarat. Member Padarat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, members. Chairman, based on his submissions provided to the committee, and after reviewing, I'm also reminded about some of the public policy statements that have been placed in the public domain, particularly in the last 2 years, as it relates to WASA's contribution to road degradation and landslips, particularly in some areas that I am familiar with. My own constituency of Princestown, in the area of Rio Claro, the constituency of Mayaro, Naparima, Maruga, Tablan. Some of these constituencies that I've mentioned are very rural parts of Trinidad, and the work of WASA or the lack thereof in some of these areas have contributed significantly to road degradation, but also major landslides and landslips that have costed persons their homes and their livelihoods. For instance, I can name right off the bat areas like St. Julian in my own constituency of Princestown, where persons have lost their entire homes. This is not one or two homes, but several homes. Similarly, we have that taking place in several other constituencies as well. The first question that I want, in the context of what I've just started off with in terms of my preamble, has to do with a public policy announcement made by WASA in conjunction with the Minister of Public Utilities in March of 2022. And I raised this question in the context of WASA having recognized that they are a major contributor to road degradation and landslips in several parts of the country because of the lack of infrastructural work on existing pipelines, but also in terms of repairs and maintenance after projects are completed to these roads and these areas that are affected by these landslips. And the first question that I really want to pose to the members coming from WASA has to do with the public policy announcement made on March 28, 2022, that WASA would work in conjunction with other state agencies, namely the Ministry of Works and Transport, but will take on the expense of rehabilitating roads and landslips caused by work or the lack thereof by WASA in many instances. There was a tremendous amount of fanfare. It was in the news for 2 and 3 days with the Minister of Public Utilities beating his chest together with members of WASA, telling members of Parliament that they're going to be fixing these roads. And I called at that time for WASA to put in the public domain that if you knew where these projects were going to be undertaken, that you share this so that we know what was the program of work that was going to be undertaken over a period of time. After the announcement and the great fanfare, we heard nothing of it. Up to now, we have heard nothing of it. And therefore, my question is, what has happened to that program? Because that program would have addressed, if it was actually carried out, the infrastructural work in terms of the rehabilitation of the roads and addressing these landslides. I would really like to hear from WASA in terms of policy. What has become of that program? 1, have any projects been undertaken under that program? 2, how much expenditure has come out of that program up to today's date? 3. And 4, if we can have an idea if projects have been undertaken, in which areas these projects have been undertaken, the scope of works, the contractors, and the information that surrounds these projects being completed and over what period of time. That's my first question. I know you're trying to limit us to 2 questions, so I'll ask the second one of WASA, and then I'll pass on for another member. The second one, again, has to do with policy, but policy in relation to what the committee is dealing with today, which is rehabilitation of roads and landslips, and the contribution of these landslips and degradation of the roads, particularly as I am addressing by WASA. Recently, we had in the public domain a matter that went to the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago, where a citizen sued the Ministry of Public Utilities and WASA because her property was being undermined by leakages that costed her home. The home had collapsed, etc. And coming out of that, the Minister of Public Utilities advised citizens that the recommendation coming from himself as minister, making a public policy statement, was that citizens were being encouraged to sue WASA. The second question I have to the committee is whether or not this is the public policy of WASA. Is this the advice that is being provided to citizens who seek relief in the courts of Trinidad and Tobago or otherwise, or whether or not WASA encourages arbitration, conflict resolution, mediation, etc. But what is the policy, and do they support the policy? Or is this a policy that has been informed through the minister and the government to WASA that when matters arise of this nature, that is a course of action that is being recommended? I ask these things because in my own constituency, I've mentioned several places where persons have lost their entire homes because of poor infrastructure, and I have raised these things on several occasions inside of the parliament. And the strange thing about it is that the Minister of Public Utilities will come to the parliament and he said, well, this is not WASA's fault. But then when you go into these areas and you do the site visits yourself, Chairman and members, I have actually toured St. Julian, I've toured Zahadat Road, I've toured Manticola, I've toured Worrell. Several of these areas is because of the contribution that have been made by WASA, exposed pipelines, dilapidated pipelines, poor maintenance by WASA that have undermined homes through these leakages, costing people their entire livelihoods and their homes. So those are the two areas that I would really like for WASA, based on the information that is in the public domain and what we're addressing today at the committee, to have addressed, please.
Okay, Chairman Nanga.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members. To deal with the second question first, and then I will turn over to the Director of Operations for the first question. I think the comment of the Honorable Minister of Public Utilities needs to be taken in context. It was not an open invitation to sue WASA. Upon this board that I chair coming into place, we set up a claims review committee. And the claims review committee would look at all litigation matters. And when I say litigation matters, pre and post-court matters. So for example, if a pre-action protocol letter comes in relation to alleged property damage as a result of leaks, the claims review committee would look at that. We would get all the background information and we would take appropriate action. It is not advisable that we go towards arbitration, but certainly we will attempt to settle, and we've been quite successful in settling a number of matters, both in and out of court, so that it is not a matter of policy that persons are to automatically sue us. So we do treat with these matters, and I can speak from the point in time when we came on the board, that is how we deal with matters. There are going to be instances where after investigation, WASA would be of the view that they have a good defense and they may not, they may decide to defend the matter. So for example, the matter the member referred to recently of a person whose house was undermined, based on advice that we've obtained, we are pursuing an appeal in that matter because we are of the view that WASA was not responsible for that incident. But it is not a matter of public policy that we invite high court actions to be commenced. We have taken a proactive role in attempting to mitigate against loss, and what has to also be understood is that there will be some matters in respect of which WASA would be at risk. Those are the ones that we'll have control over. And there will be matters where we have insurance that would cover the loss. And where there is a policy of insurance in place to cover the loss, the insurance company would take over conduct of that matter, of course, with our assistance. So that we have, in fact, since this board came into place in 2020, we have put things in place to manage the litigation portfolio. And we keep a close eye on matters that are threatened and matters that are currently in court to see whether or not these matters can be amicably resolved and settled without the need to go to trial. In terms of the first question, those areas the honourable member...
Mr. Nanga, sorry to interrupt you, but before you go to the first question, could you supply this committee with your procedure that is utilized by the authority for when you do get a claim from the public?
Yes, certainly. The minute we get notice of an incident, and this is before a claim comes in, if there is, for example, some form of property damage, it would be sent to the operations department to undertake an investigation. So we should have a report in terms of what occurred. Once a pre-action protocol letter comes in, it normally is written either to myself as chairman, to the CEO, or to the corporate secretary, general counsel. And once that letter comes in, it will go to the legal department for further investigation to develop a position for in respect of WASA. If we have the view that it's a matter that should be defended, we would retain external counsel. If we have the view that the matter should be settled, we will attempt to settle it in-house. Of course, there may be matters where the matter goes directly to court without a pre-action protocol letter. In the event that happens, we will retain attorneys to enter an appearance, but we'll also take steps to settle the matter. If there is need for the intervention of the board, guidance from the board, those matters would be referred to the Claims Review Committee, which is headed by a commissioner who's also an attorney at law. And the Claims Review Committee would review the matter and give their perspective, recommend to the board for settlement, etc. So that's really the policy that would be adopted in terms of dealing with matters that come into WASA. And that, let me just clarify that that's in relation to matters that come to WASA. Matters that are handled by the insurance company, they would have coverage of that matter.
Okay,
so if you would allow me, just a follow-up based on something that Mr. Nanda just said.
Just let me, Member Padara, just to remind Chairman Nanga that if you could supply to the committee that what you are outlined there, that policy, if you could supply that in writing to the committee. And before just Member Padara, just hold on for a minute. Also, to complete the exercise, if you could indicate to the committee the number of cases you have, the litigation cases that you have arising out of landslips that the authority is currently dealing with. If you could also provide those details to the committee in writing, the number of cases, the location, all the factors surrounding that, those particular claims that are in litigation at this point in time. And also I would add, over the last 5 years, the amount of monies that the authority has had to pay for settlement of such claims.
And to clarify that last one, would that include payments by the insurance company or simply paid by WASA?
No, insurance companies as well. The committee is trying to gauge the extent of the landslips that are occurring and how much of it is WASA's, what role WASA had to play in those landslips. We're trying to get a gauge on all of that. So, yeah. So Member Padarat, yes. I'll allow a follow-up question, and then I'll go to Member Morris Julian.
Actually, Chairman, it's based on something that you raised just now, but just to add a little clarity to it, if the chairman can assist us by, if he has the information with us, if he can share with us how many cases are currently before the Claims Review Committee. I know you've asked for it in writing, but if he has that information, I'm sure the public would like to know, if he has it at his fingertips, how many claims are currently before the committee at this point. I know you raised the issue of him presenting that information from WASA on landslips, but not just landslips as well, but the road conditions there in several parts that have contributed with the dilapidated pipelines and so on. Or it would be all claims, not just those that are being affected by these landslips, but all claims.
Yeah, okay, Chairman Nanga, yes, I think what Member Podar's question is reasonable.
Okay.
Do you have any figures to share at this point in time?
No, please, Chairman, we would respond in writing.
Okay, Member Morris Julian.
Chairman,
thank you very much,
Mr. Nanga did not respond to my first question. We only heard about the answer to the second question. There was no answer to the first question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Member Morris Julian, I just wanted to interject because I did not get an answer to my first question.
Mr. Nanga, are you clear about the first question as was asked?
Yes, by way of introduction to the first question, and then I'll pass over to the Director of Operations. Again, from the top of my head, in terms of the policy that was stated, certainly just as we embarked on a leak repair drive, we have also embarked on a road restoration drive, and it was in that context that the Minister spoke. There are many instances in which we would investigate the matter and we would determine that it's not that our infrastructure broke, causing a leak and thereby causing a landslide. It will actually be the opposite. Because those areas the member mentioned are prone to land slippages, what would occur would be that there would be land slippages that would damage and destroy our infrastructure and give the impression that we would have caused that damage. However, upon investigation, that was not the case. What I can say before I pass over to the Director of Operations is that as a mitigating factor, and the member mentioned the aging infrastructure, as a mitigating factor, we are currently exploring the use of HDPE pipes in those areas that are prone to land slippages. The benefits of HDPE pipes would be that they are a bit more flexible and they can take a certain amount of movement, so that we are hoping with that technology, we would have a reduction, even when there are land slippages, a reduction in the damage and destruction to our infrastructure. And if I can now pass over to the Director of Operations for a bit more detail in terms of the answer to that question.
Good afternoon, through you, Chair. With respect to WASA's collaboration with the Ministry of Works, we have and will continue to work very closely with Ministry of Works in addressing critical areas and areas of road restoration in particular, especially not only for leak repairs, but for where we interface for project type works or pipeline installation works. So that collaboration is ongoing, and we do work very closely in terms of the quality of the work, the getting in terms of working together to source materials when we at WASA have challenges to do so. So that collaboration has been ongoing and will continue. And I would also like to add, WASA does work closely when we are about to commence pipeline projects in terms of seeking the necessary approvals from the Ministry of Works pertaining to the disturbed area and the restoration of the area. As our chair would have indicated, in order to address road restoration efficiently, WASA would have, in addition to our in-house crews, on board road restoration type contractors who are approved by the Ministry of Works and who have been used by the Ministry of Works as well, so that these contractors are now spread throughout the country in each area, and they provide additional support and resources to the in-house crews to manage and reduce the backlog of the road restoration. So significant progress has been made in that aspect, and we will continue to work closely with not only the Ministry of Works, but the regional corporations in addressing this issue.
Okay, Member Marshall.
I just wanted to ask one follow-up question.
Member Poddar, would it be okay? I come back to you. I'll come back to you a little bit. Yeah, I'll ask Member Marshall to pose the questions. We'll come back to you, Member Poddar.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, Chairman, to WASA, and I'm asking you all to bear in mind that I would have passed through Malabar Extension Road today on my way to this meeting. Your submission indicated upon completion of a job, WASA is responsible to conduct temporary restoration within 24 hours by backfilling with sand and grade B, quite specific limestones, up to road level. Thereafter, permanent road restoration is conducted by paving with asphalt hot mix. So my question, and there is a part B, C, D, and E. So I'll just keep it to one question, Chairman, right? Has WASA been keeping its time frame to engage in temporary restoration within 24 hours? Bear in mind that I would have passed through Malabar Extension Road today.
Yeah, Chairman Nangle.
Yes, the Director of Operations would deal with that question.
Yes, through you, Chair, again, the standard or the compliance does in fact state that within 24 hours, we have to complete the temporary road restoration and then followed by the permanent road restoration. So that is in fact the standard, and that is what has to be done. The temporary restoration must be done during that time frame because we are not or cannot, for safety reasons, leave any open trench on any roadway, whether primary or secondary. So that the temporary restoration will be done by the crew that has completed the works, and then we will follow with the permanent restoration thereafter. In the instance of the Malabar Road, there were some ongoing projects to improve the reliability of supply in that area. And it was not only on leak repairs, but improvement works. The restoration did follow, but we do have some challenges in terms of when they did that restoration, as I remember, in terms of the material and weather, and the high traffic in the area would have displaced some of the top material. But that specific location is earmarked for permanent restoration, and that would be done within the next 24 hours.
Wonderful news, but through you, Chairman, this also brings me to the part B of my question. Can you account for the delays in conducting these temporary restoration works within the 24-hour time frame? You mentioned the weather, but for our viewing and listening public, please walk us through it. What else could prevent this from happening in 24 hours? Because we all know persons want it fixed now without understanding whatever prohibitions you may be keeping you back.
Sorry, through you, Chair. The instance that could cause a temporary restoration to be delayed, and I am stressing that the restoration must be completed immediately thereafter, because again, it's an open excavation. It would entail an open cut or a trench that cannot be left on in terms of unfilled. So it must be filled to capacity, and the base force will be applied so that the temporary restoration again must be completed to cover that open trench. In the instance where it would have failed, it would have been due again if the appropriate material or the volume of material in that instance will not adequate.
So through you, Chairman, can I also find out what's the average time to complete permanent road restoration? And I'm asking, Chairman, that they take me through it. You dig a trench, for example, on Malabar Extension Road, a long trench. And it takes some time because of bad weather, not having the material to fix it. What is the average length of time from temporary to permanent road restoration? I'm sorry I keep using Malabar Extension Road. I don't know why.
Temporary road restoration, again?
Permanent. I want to know what is the time from temporary to permanent.
So from the temporary to permanent, based on our compliance, should be within the 7-day period. Again, the 7-day period will be dependent on the availability of the resources and other environmental conditions. So whereas it would be the standard, there would be some instances if the materials or the weather permitting is not, in essence, the appropriate scenario, then it could be delayed. But I would emphasize again that we have, in fact, included additional resources so that in terms of having the contractors, they have readily available the materials and the equipment and the crews that are available on call to do the permanent road restoration.
Through you, Chairman, I must say this is the first time I'm hearing it's only 7 days. And I just want, again, you already answered E, describe the challenges with conducting permanent road restoration. And Chairman, although I said I would not ask a second question, I'm going to ask a second question, all right? It won't be a 10-minute monologue. The second question I would like to ask is, what is the coordination between the local authorities, meaning the corporation and WASA, regarding road restoration works?
That coordination will be, in terms of WASA, the Ministry of Works, the regional corporation, it would be as required. We interface very closely and as needed when we are on major or secondary roads. We would interface in terms of transfer of information, knowledge, and in some instances, even transfer or assistance with resources.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ali. Ms. Maharaj-Julian, Member Maharaj-Julian, we move on.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we go to Member de Nobrega.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chairman, I think through you, I think we can appreciate that the only time, or most of the majority of the times that WASA has to get involved in road restoration is when there is a failure in terms of their pipe infrastructure. So, Chairman, if you permit, one, I would like to start off by getting an update from WASA as to the management of their leaks. And then secondly, Chairman, I'd also like to get an idea of the internal process at WASA with regards to moving from temporary road restoration to permanent road restoration. How does WASA update the different crews, if there are different crews or different departments that we have conducted temporary road restoration at X location. So therefore, by Y date, permanent road restoration has to occur.
Thank you. I would deal with the first question, and then I'll pass over to the Director of Operations for the procedure. So that in terms of leak repair, We are happy to announce that we have cleared the backlog of leaks that would have been addressed. I think on the last occasion we appeared before the Joint Select Committee. We are currently working on what we refer to as current leaks, those current leaks being leaks 30 days and less, and we are in the process of addressing those current leaks so that we have cleared the backlog and we're in the process of addressing current leaks. I will now pass over to the Director of Operations for the procedure from moving from temporary to permanent road restoration.
Through you, Chair. So as our Chair has indicated, we have in fact done extensive works in reducing our leak backlog, and we have also implemented similar measures for road restoration. And as I've mentioned, we have included the additional resources to supplement in-house crews to manage the road restoration jobs that we have on our system. In terms of the process for or between when we do have a job and when it's completed in terms of the permanent restoration, and I'll start with starting from the parent job or the leak job. When a leak or broken main is falling, it goes into internal management system, a job management system. On this system, that leak repair is assigned a work request number. That work request number will be a tracking number that we could refer to that leak at any point in time and have all information pertaining to that job. The job is assigned to a crew, and in this case, it could be internal or contracted. And that crew then executes a leak repair job. Once the job is completed, the restoration, the temporary restoration, as I've mentioned, must be completed the same time or on completion, immediate completion of the leak repair. That temporary restoration will be done firstly by the crew who has done the leak repair, and it's followed by the road restoration crew for permanent road restoration. Permanent restoration would have the items or the elements of the parent job, meaning the dimensions, the location, and any other particular information that is required to execute that road restoration. So that when the road restoration crew goes on site, all the relevant information is already within their purview. In instances where we have major road restoration or jobs on major thoroughfares, then we must interface with the relevant authorities for traffic management. And in instances where we are on highway or major roadworks of that nature, it will entail coordination with the Ministry of Works. Ministry of Works will normally provide support, technical support and guidance, and they will also work very closely with WASA to ensure that the assigned crew, and in these instances, we would utilize the road restoration contractor, and they will essentially do the works with all the material, the equipment, the labor. And of course, Ministry of Works will approve the works once it is completed to their satisfaction. So in simple summary, that's the process from the start to the completion of the job.
Thank you, Ms. Ali. So we have quite a few members with their hands raised. First, I'll go to Member Kennedy Richards. Then after him, we'll go to Member Padarat. And after him, we go to Member Anil Roberts. And then back to Member Morris Julian. So we go in that order. Member Richards.
Thank you very much, Chair. There's about 3 questions. First, I want to make a statement. The leak repair was definitely a problem when WASA last appeared before the committee, and I can definitely attest that it has been expedited. However, I think the same type of energy that they have and they have put in, and the same type of work they have put in terms of the repairs, need to now be transferred over to the road restoration aspect. I understand that there is a lot of challenges, and the challenges were explained, so I'm not going to ask that again. However, it has not been all right, however, it has not
Member Richards, we're getting a sort of feedback from you there. Member Richards, you still with us?
Yes,
Chairman,
Chairman. Yes, okay. Chairman. Yeah, so I'm saying that road restoration is definitely an issue, and it needs to be treated with. I know there is a myriad of things that they have to go through, but that they definitely have to speed up. One other question. We spoke, the initial member Parangal spoke about how WASA was contributing to landslips, but I would like to find out how much land slippage is contributing to the disruption in WASA's infrastructure. Also to the director of operations, what type of projects are taking place at present to treat with the high leakage lines and in what part of the country these projects are taking place? That's it for now, Chair. May I have a follow-up?
Okay. So we start with Mr. Nanga.
Member. Yes, now that we have gotten a handle on the leak repairs and we are now addressing current leak repairs, our efforts have now shifted to a road restoration. And as the Director of Operations indicated, we have assigned road restoration crews internally to the 5 regions under WASA's control. And in addition to that, we have also taken on Ministry of Works approved contractors. And we have started, just as we did with the leak repairs, we have started to tackle the road restorations. And when we say road restorations, in this instance, we are referring to the permanent road restorations. At times, we would get complaints, and the CEO would liaise with some of the contractors in order to address road restoration. So we have started to work on aggressively addressing road restoration. In terms of the impact of landslips on our infrastructure, that mainly happens in the southern regions. And as I indicated, once we get a report, for example, of a major landslip or a report of damage to property, we will investigate. And as I indicated earlier on, our investigations would at time reveal that the land slippage would have actually caused our infrastructure to be dislodged and to be damaged and or destroyed. Similarly, at times, and I think recently within the last couple of months, our Ministry of Works was addressing a landslide in the southern region. And in carrying out those works, further land slippage occurred. And at that point, our pipeline was damaged. And of course, Ministry of Works called us, and we attended in relatively quick time to repair so that the repairs to the land slippage could have continued. So that once we get a report of an extensive land slippage, extensive leaks, etc., we will address it. We will investigate to determine whether our pipes leaked, causing the land slippage, or whether it was the lands that slipped first. And of course, when we are investigating, you would observe areas in the immediate vicinity that would have also slipped where we do not have our infrastructure, suggesting that it was really because of soil instability, that would have caused the land slippage as opposed to a leak. Because if there would have been slippages where our infrastructure is not located, then that really speaks towards the condition of the soil in that area. In terms of and I will pass over to the Director of Operations shortly in as much as the question was posed to her. But as part of the IDB loan program, part of the projects under the IDB loan program, and I believe we would have provided this information to the committee in the past. Part of that program involves the replacement of pipes, so that we are in the process and are subject to correction, but the tender packages would have been completed, and we are in the process of accessing the IDB loan. We are going through the satisfying certain preconditions, and once that occurs, those tenders would go out towards pipe replacement. In addition, independent of the IDB program, as I indicated as well at the last sitting, we started to map those areas where we have recurrent leaks, and we've used that as a guide to guide us in terms of replacing aged infrastructure. Further, we embarked on a pilot project in the Northwest region with a foreign consultant, where they would also be looking at the infrastructure. They would be using their technology to identify the conditions of the pipes and earmark them for replacement. I'll now pass over to the Director of Operations.
Through Chair, just to add further to our Chair's statement, we have in fact reviewed all of our infrastructure in terms of pipeline infrastructure and identified, prioritized the ones that are deemed urgent for replacement or for upgrade. And this has been done throughout the country, including Tobago as well. And WASA has already started, embarked on several programs, several funding programs, where pipeline replacement type projects have been started, completed, and some ongoing. So in the submission, we would have given a listing of projects and areas where we did complete projects and where projects are about to start and where we have projects ongoing at this point in time. Those projects span throughout different communities. They are to address several issues, as Chair indicated, in terms of high leakage means where we have aged infrastructure. Encrusted means long service connections that are prone to high leakage, and also in areas where the need to extend the distribution system because residents or in communities would have gone beyond the WASA's infrastructure. So all those elements would have been taken into consideration and prioritized for means replacement program. So this will be ongoing over the next several months. And I would also like to add that WASA did in fact publish a list of projects that were about to commence. We did that a couple of months ago, and it was published in the media. So I'm sent also to the various stakeholders, the Ministry of Goods being the forefront, so that persons would see and be aware of the different areas where road works or WASA's crews will be in attendance to do road works and in terms of the restoration on completion of the project. So we have and will continue this drive to upgrade the infrastructure. And as I've mentioned, it is prioritized. And it is in an attempt to address the unserved and underserved communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And we have made significant in terms of progress in that aspect, where in some areas we have got first-time supply to customers, very first-time supply, water supply, and where even customers were below the minimum in terms of levels of service. And we have now, on completion of these projects, improve levels of service to communities throughout. So that the program of works, as I've mentioned, will continue, and this will continue over the next several months into 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, thank you very much, Natalie. I see Member Padarat, his hand is no longer up, so we'll go to Member Roberts.
No, sir. I just
sorry.
Because I would send a message.
Okay. Yeah, please, Member Padarat.
Chairman, through you to the members of WASA, particularly I want to address something that was said by the Director of Operations in light of the first question that I had asked. And we got a very broad overview of the symbiotic relationship between the Ministry of Works and Transport and WASA in terms of road rehabilitation in its entirety. The question that I asked, the very first question, was a specific question based on policy presented by the Minister of Public Utilities on behalf of WASA and on behalf of the government. And therefore, I want a commitment from WASA based on that public utterance and that mandate from the Ministry of Public Utilities to WASA that as of March 28, 2022, when the announcement was made that WASA will undergo major road rehabilitation through a specific program with an identified budget. How many projects have been completed from March 28 to today? I know the answer may not be able to come off the top of their heads, and they will be able to provide it in writing, but I will accept it in writing. But I want the commitment that based on that public policy announcement of a specific road rehabilitation program announced by the Minister of Public Utilities on behalf of WASA, that the committee will be able to get a complete list of all projects from March 28, 2022 to today's date, the areas in which these projects have been undertaken, the expense per project, the contractor, and the scope of works. I want that commitment. I don't want the broad-brushed answer that I was given by the Director of Operations. While I appreciated the question was very specific. So I want that commitment first. The second thing is that on March 2nd, 2023, on behalf of the Ministry of Public Utilities, the Minister of Public Utilities indicated, and it was carried in a Guardian Media Limited story by Radhika De Silva, where the minister indicated, and the headline said, managers of WASA to account. And when you read the story, the minister spoke about the same protocols the Director of Operations and the Chairman of WASA spoke about in relation to these road rehabilitation projects and the landslips in terms of the time frame in which they are to be addressed, pursuant to the protocols established, what is to happen in terms of the communications, in terms of the scope of works, etc. Based on the minister's statement and the directive given through that story carried by Radhika De Silva, that the managers of WASA will be held to account, I want to ask the chairman of WASA, because in the story, the minister said that he is going to mandate the board. And Mr. Nanga, I believe, is the chairman of the board. A question I want to ask is, as of March 2nd, 2023, seeing that the Director of Operations have indicated in several instances that they were not able to meet the established protocols within the timeframes, what has happened? What repercussions has occurred? What benchmarks have been made in terms of sanctions, in terms of evaluations, of putting probably square pegs in round holes in terms of getting people who are more effective to do the job? Because the minister told us that the managers will be held to account by the board. So if we can have some background information into that, I'll be grateful, but also the commitment with respect to the information I requested based on question 1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Mr. Nanga.
The question member. In terms of the road restoration program, what we did when this board came in, and I know you referenced March of this year, but when this board came in, there were no policies in place, and we developed a road restoration policy so that we can use that as a metric to hold managers accountable. But as the Director of Operations indicated, at times it is not due to the performance of the managers, but due to extenuating circumstances. For example, with the temporary road repairs that are affected by weather. Similarly, when we go to attempt permanent road repairs, we are affected by weather. You would have a shortage of material, as well as with us having to address the leak repair program. That would have taken up a lot of our resources. Now that we are on top of the leak repair program, as I earlier indicated, the resources are now reallocated to the road restoration. But just as we have seen us coming on top of the leak repair, we expect within shortest possible time to now come on top of the road restoration. Of course, the issue that we face stems from the indications of the meteorological office, and we're expecting a very hectic rainy season. And of course, we will not do road restorations in the rainy season. And I want to draw, in terms of our new practices and procedures, I want to draw reference to that leak we had last year at Peaks. A few months before that, we had a huge leak, and that caused a lot of havoc with traffic in the west. On that occasion, we had our internal leak repair crew. They were dispatched to commence roadworks around 8 o'clock, and we had an independent contractor on standby. And by about 5 a.m. that very morning, the leak was repaired and the road was permanently restored. So that is the standard that we're looking to achieve. Of course, I can anticipate questions flowing out of that, but that was a main thoroughfare, but we would want to replicate that going along. In terms of the number of road restorations that we have done quite a few. But of course, like with the leak repair, you have recurring problems. We would have to provide those figures in terms of the number of road restorations, the costs expended, and the contractors utilized. We'll have to provide that in writing, which we undertake.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Member Roberts, we come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've been listening to a bit of the proceedings before. I will change my approach because having listened to WASA, and I intended to ask the board members and WASA some questions, I really am not in the mood for fantasy. When I go home, I'll watch Netflix because we are hearing about leak backlogs being taken care of, and now they're labeling leaks as 30-day leaks. On my road in Mary Avenue in Diego Martin, we had 2 leaks there leaking over 18 months. When you turn left on Diego Martin Main Road, where they fix a big leak 3 times for an average of 5 days per fix, it started back leaking. And 4 areas within that, between there and Super Farm, by the Wassa water pump station, where the trucks full, leaking about 2 years. I don't know what Wassa is talking about, so I will leave the fantasy for them. I will go on to do and to get some truth from APET, please. So the scientists and engineers at APET, please, welcome, good afternoon. Could you please tell the population about the power and the erosive power and the power to degrade infrastructure of water, especially flowing water under infrastructural works? Please scientifically explain that, how dangerous, how deadly, how powerful flowing water underneath substructures is, please. Anyone from APET?
Okay, so Member Roberts, we'll be getting to APET in a little while. So I think the question you're asking is very relevant.
They're not listening?
No, the question that you're asking is very relevant, but we will be moving on from WASA to APET in a short while. And what I prefer is we deal.
No problem. I will deal with the fantasy first. Please, Mr. Chairman and WASA, you just made a carte blanche statement to the nation. First of all,
yeah, Member Roberts, for some reason. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We won't hear.
Sorry about that. Somebody tried to call me. Yes, somebody tried to call through. I humbly apologize. It saddens me to know that the Chairman Nanga of WASA would like to replicate 3 days of torture for the people of West Trinidad and Diego Martin, where I live, where on average you spend 4 hours and 25 minutes in traffic trying to go 4 kilometers. So if that is the best you would like to replicate, it doesn't augur well for the rest of the country. Secondly, Chairman Nanga and WASA, you come here and you make a carte blanche statement that you have dealt with the backlog of leaks. Please give us some numbers, some statistics, Because in 2017, at the Joint Select Committee of the Parliament, it was stated by then Minister Lahant and other WASA members that at that time there were 4,200 leaks, leaking and losing 4.2 billion gallons of water per month. In 2019 and 2020, that increased to 6,400 leaks. Please tell me, what's the number of leaks in your new definition and semantics that exist in Trinidad and Tobago now? And how much water, potable water, are we losing per month throughout Trinidad and Tobago by leaking systems of water?
So Chairman Nanga, would you offer some comments on what Member Roberts is asking?
And in terms of the first comment, I was not referring to the first repair that we did in the West that would have caused the havoc. I was referring to the second leak that we addressed. And we addressed and restored the road in less than 12 hours. The repair, and it was a massive repair. The leak was repaired and the road permanently restored in less than 12 hours. In fact, the CEO had sent me photographs. By 5 o'clock, the road was already restored and it created a minimum amount of traffic disruption. I was personally on the scene from around 7 o'clock that night. And while I was there, I left around 11 o'clock. There was no backup of traffic at that point that I was referring to. That second repair, not the first one. We were cognizant of the issues faced by the first one. We learned from our mistakes on that occasion, and we corrected it on the second time around. At the time we started with the leak repair drive, we were looking at an approximate figure of 5,000 leaks in our system. And that would have been at the point when we developed the digital dashboard to allow us to track the leaks that we were dealing with. And we would have repaired that 5,000 leak backlog. That's the backlog that we met in place. That's the backlog that persons that would have been referring to all along. Currently, based on our system, we have 1,500 current leaks that we're in the process of addressing. Of course, we can't say that we have 1,500 leaks. That is a moving target because we would have leaks that are repaired, then you would have new leaks. And until we have substantial replacement of our aged infrastructure, that is an issue that we would have to deal with continuously. I'm thankful that the member mentioned the leak that was repaired on 3 and 4 occasions. We are fully aware of that, and we have taken steps to address that. In addition to developing a road restoration policy, we have developed, with the assistance of our deputy chair, who was a former president of the Plumbers Association, we have developed a protocol for leak repair. And we have asked the leak repair crews internally to follow that protocol to ensure that the leaks are properly repaired. In fact, in my area where I live, there was a leak that was repaired on 4 occasions within the span of about 2 weeks until we were forced to get a contractor. The contractor came in and the leak was permanently repaired, so that we are addressing that issue of reoccurring leaks at the same place. Again, hopefully, once we have sufficient replacement of aged infrastructure, those occurrences would be reduced. I think that would be the questions. So currently, there are 1,500 leaks based on our digital dashboard that we are looking at.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Nanga. What is happening is that it's 3:32. We have spent almost 1 hour, close to 1 hour, with WASA.
Chairman,
we have other entities present.
Chairman, I waited patiently. Let me just respond to the Chairman Nanga, please, because he gave us some nice information there that moved us from the realm of fantasy into a bit of reality. So one follow-up to Chairman Nanga. So there are 1,500 leaks now. Now, not in a scientific manner, but more in a guesstimate manner based on 4,200 leaks losing 4.2 billion gallons of water per month. If there are 1,500 leaks now, we are saying that WASA is currently under our road infrastructure and under our houses and our buildings and everything, that there is approximately still 1.2 to 1.5 billion gallons of water being wasted by leaks from WASA's infrastructure. What if you have a scientist there? I'm not sure if this acting CEO is an engineer. What is the effect of all of this water continuously flowing under our road networks, our bridges, and damaging the foundations? Because you can be talking about road restoration, but with the power of water and the amount of leaks, we will be restoring roads till my great-grandson that is not born yet is 100 years old. So please tell us how much gallons of water is being wasted and what is the damage that is doing to the infrastructure, our road infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, so Chairman Nanga, I would allow you a response.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether the member got those figures, but it's the amount of water lost by leaks is not in the billions. It's in the millions, perhaps hundreds of millions. Which is the 90 million gallons of water would be lost by leaks. In terms of understanding leaks, it's not to say that that 90 million gallons would be flowing under our roads, etc. What we have found is that the majority of leaks take place at our service connections. What we have realized is that in the past, inferior materials were used to make those service connections. So the vast majority of our leaks are in fact due to that connection, the house connection, so that you have leaks flowing there. Those leaks will not flow under the roads. In terms of when you have aged infrastructure, on that occasion, it's not that you would have to a certain extent water undermining the infrastructure, but when we see the damage to the roads, it's not necessarily as a result of the water flowing, but as a result of us having to dig up the roads to gain access to the leaks. So it's not to say, but we accept that there would be instances in which the water going under pressure will undermine the substructure of the roads, but the majority of the damage to the roads would have taken place as a result of us having to dig up those roads in order to access the leaks. Moving forward, as I indicated, we are embarking on a widespread pipeline replacement program. And what we are doing is that as far as possible, we are using utility corridors, and as far as possible, we are attempting to move those lines out of the roadway so that in the event we have recurring leaks in the future, we will not have to interfere with the roads. Coupled with that, as I indicated as well, we are looking at the HDPE pipe technology, which the persons that did the presentation to us indicated that we will have a 30-year guarantee on those pipelines. But the literature suggests that you'll have 50 years of trouble-free service if you utilize that technology. In addition to utilizing that technology, we're also exploring the trenchless technology, where you would have horizontal drilling so that you will not have to interfere with the roads. You will be able to lay these pipelines without interfering with the roads, so that we are looking to remove our infrastructure as far as possible off these roadways, so that what we are facing now should be a thing of the past once we get sufficiently into the program.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, through you, a follow-up question to Chairman Nanga. Chairman Nanga, it is unfortunate that you have been at the helm of WASA for a very long time, and you do not understand the quantum of water lost by leaks. You're telling me that it's not billions of gallons. Let me tell you something. I don't open my mouth before I research. The average back in 2017, the average potable water produced and pumped by WASA to supply Trinidad and Tobago was about 7.2 to 7.3 billion gallons per month. At the rate of leakage of 4,200 leaks, WASA was losing 50 to 56% of their potable water through leakage, which amounted to an average of 4.2 billion gallons per month. So you telling me millions, you are totally misinformed. You need to lean over by the CEO and ask him how much water per month is lost through leakage. And so, Mr. Chairman, I would like him to clarify and check its facts and tell the population the truth, please. Thank you.
Okay, so Chairman Nanga, could you just clarify, because Member Roberts is, of course, referring to the monthly production of water. Are you on the same wavelength? Is it monthly or daily that you are referring to?
Yeah, the figure that I got from the CEO, and I would turn over to the CEO in terms of those figures.
Thank you, Chairman, and through you, Chair, I really do appreciate Member Roberts' question. I can speak directly to these numbers because I would have done the last study in WASA relative to the non-revenue water levels. And those studies are usually done on a yearly basis and given on a daily rate. So the last figure that we would have developed in terms of determined, for physical losses, those are losses that you will be seeing on the roadways and so forth, from reservoirs, from tanks, and sometimes the transmission systems. They amount to 90 million gallons per day, which would be about 7.2 billion gallons for the month. I can speak to those figures directly. Now, as I said, those figures are generated yearly from our yearly water balance. Unfortunately, in WASA, we do not have a ubiquity of meters on our system. Hence, we concentrate the resources on a yearly basis at this point in time to determine these figures. Inherent in any distribution network will be leakage. Point is that it cannot get away from leakage. What we do in WASA, or what water utilities do around the world, is mitigate against leakage. And we have a number of reasons why we have leakages. One, it could be poor quality material. Two, you could have aged infrastructure. Three, it could be the operations of the network itself. And we all suffer from all consequences in WASA. And what we are trying to do, not what we are trying to do, where we are actively working on root cause situations where we look at the root cause of our leaks so that we will have sustainable leak repair. What we anticipate in time is that we wouldn't have a conversation where we'll be speaking about road restoration because we'd have a control of our leakage through our network. And I can safely say that one of the lowest hanging fruits in Trinidad, after doing various studies, will be pressure management. If it is that we control our pressures and have equitable pressure throughout our system, we may not have to be dealing, and we will not have to be dealing with these numerous amount of leakages. One of the issues that we have in Trinidad as well would be intermittent supply. Contrary to what people think, we do not want to have an intermittent supply in Trinidad. We want to have 24/7 supply. Intermittent supply stresses your system, creates transients on the system, and thereby causing leaks. So I hope Thank you. I didn't rant, and I would have answered Member Roberts' question.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. CEO, for an honest, in-depth, intelligent, well-researched, factual answer. And I would hope that will go a long way to move you from acting to being the substantive CEO so that you would have job security. And Nanga, I will give you the opportunity to apologize and clarify, and then I will hand over to another.
Yeah, so Member Roberts, we did get a decent response from Acting CEO Romain. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to move on. We have spent quite some time with WASA. As I said, we have other entities here. I know members have their hands up, but what I would like to do is give Member Ibrahim has not had a chance to ask his question, and then WASA. So before we move off WASA, Member Ibrahim would pose this question, and then as we wrap up, I would like to ask just one question regarding WASA before we move on to engaging the other entities. So, Member Ibrahim.
Thank you, Chair. WASA, your submission outlined a program of road restoration works carried for the period 2022 to 2024. Can you just guide us as to the percentage of road restoration that has been completed to date? And in this particular time, we have found out, I'm linking it on other topic here, which is the availability of bitumen. How has this shortage, if so, how has this shortage hampered your process in moving forward for your program 2022 to 2024?
Chairman, if I can turn over to the Director of Operations.
Yeah, sure.
Through you, Chair, the list that was provided in terms of road restoration was started would have been in relation to jobs that the authority completed, and some that are ongoing, as I've mentioned before. So that from that list, we would have completed significant works on all the projects that were completed, those completed projects, and those were totaled in the first instance over 40 out of the list. And the other ones that are due for restoration, it would mean that once the job or the main job has been completed, then we would do the restoration component. So the works here, it is ongoing works in most cases here with the Ministry of Works being closely related, meaning that it is some instances where we have to do pipeline relocation, and we do so in conjunction with the Ministry of Works, where they have requested such works. And hence the reason from the list, we will see where a number of them are in areas like such as the Kalapath-Maharaj and so many areas where the existing infrastructure did encounter some movement that the ministry would have asked, or they would have been programming works to do on their side and would have asked WASA in essence to also work together with them to relocate the pipeline infrastructure to a more safer location. So that the restoration for those jobs that are ongoing.
Ms. Ali, could I just interrupt you? I think what you are presenting here, you would have already told the committee in response to other questions, the collaboration, Ministry of Works and Transport. And rather than get into details, Member Ibrahim was specifically asking, so if you could put in writing the percentage of work that has been done to the committee for the period that he is asking for, 2023, 2024, that would serve the committee a lot in terms of more precise information, rather than we did receive from you the generalization of the information before. So I don't think we need to get into that. Do you have a response with regards to the availability of the bitumen? Is it affecting your road restoration works? And what steps are being taken to address the situation if there is a problem?
Yes, definitely. And we will provide a response for the first part of the item. With respect to the bitumen, we do have instances where the shortfall in the bitumen availability has impacted upon the authority's ability to do road restoration and also the timely road restoration. This is a critical component that must be used together with the other raw materials. And we have been working with through our procurement department, looking at several options for suppliers. We have looked internally and even researched where we could obtain this material through foreign means. They have identified some sources where we were able to get internally the bitumen, but it does continue to be an issue here. And once that material is not available, then we cannot successfully complete the road restoration job.
Yeah, okay, thank you. could you also put in writing the if you based on your projected work for the period coming up, that Member Abraham identified that period, what are your requirements for bitumen? How you intend to procure the necessary quantities of bitumen that you need so that it does not hamper the progress of your restoration works. Because what I'm gathering is a lot of effort is going to be made into road restoration. And if you could provide that information to the committee in terms of procurement of bitumen, the quantities you need, and how you would be going about it. I just want to ask one question to WASA before we move off to WASA, but the question I'm going to ask will also engage APET and UWI at the same time. So maybe it would be an opportune time to have both APET and UWI get into this conversation. And what I really wanted to ask WASA is the quality of your road restoration works. Now, the perception of the public outside there is that your standard of road restoration works leaves much to be desired. And that is putting it mildly. For the average member of the public driving around, having to encounter, excavations and temporary repairs that you have done and all of those things, it's really a challenge for the public, including myself. Because you speak about standard. I think you said that you have two types of jobs, operational jobs. This is in response to question 1. And you have project type jobs, where the operational jobs would come about because of pipeline repairs, valve repairs, water service connections, pipeline interconnectivity, for which excavation of the roadway is required. Then you have such jobs like installation of new pipelines, etc. You also want to indicate WASA is responsible to conduct temporary restoration within 24 hours by backfilling with sandfill and grade B limestone up to the road level. Thereafter, permanent road restoration is conducted by paving with asphalt hot mix. Now, from an engineering point of view, in terms of engineered road restoration works, my view is that your response to question 1 leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm just asking, 1, does the authority has specifications for road repairs, road restoration works? And are those specifications blanket specifications for any type of road? Sandfill and grade B limestone, whatever that is, grade B limestone, I'm not sure. Or whether or not you have looked at the primary roads, secondary roads, minor roads, and based on the pavement structure of those roads that existed before, is the authority committed to restoring the pavement structure that was there before? Because what is a common observation outside there is that the hole is dug, it's not squared off in times of repair. Material is pushed in. A lot of times, members of the public see no compaction taking place whatsoever. And then a sprinkling of this grade B limestone is put on, and a cone is put on the bump that remains on the road. Or where you don't have a cone, you stick a branch, a tree branch. Things like that are fairly common outside there. So my question to you is, how much of your road restoration works are engineered? 1, the specification that is available. 2, the materials, the quality control of the materials that are utilized in road restoration works. And 3, I would ask, the training of your in-house staff, your in-house resources to conduct proper road restoration works, or your list of contractors, your subcontractors who conduct road restoration works for WASA. So if you can enlighten the committee and the viewing public about the quality and the standard of your road restoration works, including the quality control.
Thank you, Chairman, and I would ask the CEO to handle this question.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, thanks for your question. I do agree with you. There is much to be desired with regards to the restoration works carried out by some of our teams. WASA's core function is not to repair roads and restore roads. And that's probably the evidence there. What we have done, however, is develop a system where we use specifications, and we have our quality control officers on site with contractors, as well as our crews. In addition to that, we have recently developed an appraisal system for our contractors, where obviously we grade our contractors and we use them accordingly. So if it is that we have a poorly performing contractor, we will remove the contractor and have another contractor take its place. We have seen the evidence of the benefits of this strategy going forward in most instances where we have excellent work being done by some of our contractors. And I expect going forward, Chairman, that the public will also be pleased. Now, we have an effects liability period of about 6 months. And I for one, I traverse through Trinidad and Tobago, and where I am dissatisfied with restorative works, I specifically speak with the director to get it redone. So I want to assure the public and you, Chairman, that going forward, we expect to see good quality restoration works.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Romain. I would like to ask a follow-up question, but before I do, could I invite Dr. Townsend? And after him, could I invite Dr. Lee Leon from the university, or Mr. Chedi, and Mr. Chedi, if he has joined us, for your inputs into this whole question of the quality of road restoration works and ensuring that they are engineered. Dr. Townsend?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Actually, we are also hoping to discuss the whole issue of how landslips are being treated and how the engineering for landslips is.
Yeah, we'll come to landslips.
So that, but I guess generally speaking, but from what I've been listening to the presentation, and clearly the temporary works that are being described are not engineered works. As the head of operations is describing, what they have tried to do in the temporary works is not have a hazard of a hole on the roadway being left overnight. I think that I think that is basically what the best that could be said about those temporary roads of sand backfill with some grade B limestone on the top, because clearly that is not meant for any kind of durability. So it's really a very short term, not having a whole situation there. In terms of the permanent works though, we will be concerned that proper pavement design is done for the permanent works. And as an engineer, when we talk about pavement design, we speak in terms of all the layers that make up the roadway. And that would include the quality of the subbase, the quality of the base, coarse material, and then, of course, the wearing surface at the end. It must be put in place in the correct way, utilizing the proper materials, compacted to the proper specification, as you build up your layers, as you rebuild your road, more or less, to the standard, or perhaps in some cases a better standard than it was at the start. So that requires an understanding of engineering, of what we call pavement design. And I'm sure Dr. Leon could give some more details in terms of what it encompasses. If that is being done with a proper, as I said, with good engineering design, and then of course it's being implemented with good supervision of that design, then it will redound in terms of the quality of the finished surface and its longevity. If you are finding a situation where the permanent reinstatement is not standing up. And it is not because of a renewed leakage, because as you are well aware, we tend to use what we call flexible pavements in this part of the world. And those are pavements that require a dry, granular base course and free-draining base course. And if you have the introduction of a large amount of water below the surface, doesn't matter what you design as a surface, it's gonna fail. But once it has been properly engineered in terms of its design and construction and its building, and once there are no continued leaks below, then that will be as good as new. So if we are, so I don't know if when the evaluation of the situation is taking place, whether or not that is part of it, because I don't know what WASA's specification is for its design of its reinstated roadways. But once that is available, that it can be determined whether or not that is proper engineering design, if it meets the kind of standards that we would want to have. Perhaps Dr. Leon could add some more to it.
Yeah, before Dr. Leon adds to it, Dr. Townsend, I think a general observation there with road restoration by WASA is that the temporary restoration invariably becomes a significant part of the permanent road restoration, because what happens mainly, judging from observations of others, is, and including myself, is that we top up with the limestone, the crushed limestone, to take care of any settlement that may have occurred over a period of time, and then a wearing course comes. So in fact, the temporary reinstatement and the sandfill and the saturated backfill, the saturated material that is used for backfill, as well as whatever material is scraped up and those things, actually becomes the base or the subgrade for the restoration work. And it is built on. And that to me is a crucial factor in terms of the achieving a satisfactory standard with the permanent restoration. And I've always wondered, why it is that the temporary restoration by WASA is such a quick fix. Throw back the materials, throw the sandfill, put a little limestone. Now, of course, the intention, I think, is to get the traveling public, the driving public, using the roads as quickly as possible. But at the same time, you tend to see an absence of, engineered works. And even though something is temporary, it does not mean that we forego the basics of engineering.
Agreed. And that's why I said the temporary roadworks as described are not engineered works.
Okay.
We wouldn't describe as engineered works at all. Those are, as I said, it sounded to me as attempting to fill a hole in order for traffic to pass over it, as opposed to creating a structure which would need to last for the period that the authority has indicated it has given itself to do the permanent works. So if the authority said that we want to do permanent works within 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever that period is, then whatever is determined as a temporary surface, it should be designed and built in such a way as it could withstand that 2-week period. As I said, so I don't know what specifications are being used to do that, but it would appear as if it is not, that is not the intention.
Okay, Dr. Leon?
Thank you, Chair. As well, Dr. Townsend hit the nail on the head with most of the responses. I just wanted to add that in terms of temporary, what we define as temporary, what is the time? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a year? And that will determine what type of engineering, what type of design you will need to deal with the traffic that has to traverse that particular part of the pavement structure. It also has to do with one treatment cannot be right for everything. We have to look at that particular problem, that particular pothole, that particular trench they dig, and look at the particular situation, because one, they probably might only need just the base cost and a wearing cost, or they might actually need a sub-base and so on. So every situation is different, every job is different, and it has to be designed, whether it's temporary, whether it's permanent, it has to be designed based on that particular job or that particular trench or that particular pothole they're dealing with. So definition of temporary has to be addressed. And as Dr. Thompson said, I'm not too aware of the procedures WASA's use for repairing of the temporary repairs or permanent repairs. But the definition of temporary is important because that will tell you how long that trench or that particular fix will last, or whether it's permanent, as well as the situation as to how deep is the trench, what is the type of materials, how many layers are dug out, how many layers have to be replaced, as well as even the wearing cost. Is the wearing cost sufficient thickness to accommodate that traffic, whether we have secondary roads, primary roads, wherever, on the highways or agricultural roads, wherever they are going to fix. So that particular pavement structure is of vital importance, designing it, whether it's a small trench, 10 by 5 feet, it can be 20 feet long, it can be 4 by 4, it has to be designed. And it has to be designed based on the material, based on the particular situation, based on the traffic level as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lillian. So, Mr. Romain, I hope you have been following the discussion attentively. And I mean, you all are embarking on a major road restoration works at tremendous cost. And the whole distinction between temporary and permanent, your specifications, your pavement structure design, and all of those things are exceedingly important in terms of road restoration that is going to last and give us value for money. What I would encourage is that WASA collaborates. That WASA collaborates with the University of the West Indies and also with APET as well. In as a follow-up to this discussion that we are having here, not as an imposition on WASA, but as a means for us to get this entire thing right and to ensure that what we are spending, what we are putting out on road restoration is going to last for the design life of the road restoration works. So I would encourage that collaboration takes place. And then on behalf of the committee, what I would like to do is to request in writing from WASA, all that your specifications, your including not only just material specification for use in the restoration works, but to cover methodology, to cover workmanship, all aspects of our specification. That if you could provide us with the specification that you use, and for various types of road restoration works, how it is the authority looks at the road restoration works, whether it's different categories based on the pavement structure that has to be reinstated, based on the type of road, all those factors. And if you could provide the committee with whatever information you have with regards to that aspect of it. The second thing is that if you could also provide the committee with the training that is done for your in-house road restoration department. If you could know the staffing of your road restoration department, who are the officers, what are the qualifications and training that they have received. And Mr. Romain, you did mention about quality control technicians, people who would go out and try to ensure that there's quality control and assurance. What sort of testing that you do for the materials that are being used in your road restoration works? What it is that your quality control technicians are looking at for major road restoration works. What are the quality control checks that are being done? And if you could also provide information, similar information for your road restoration subcontractors as well. it would allow the committee to see how we can work together with WASA in this critical aspect of its work. And it would also help us to make recommendations that would assist WASA going down the road with regards to road restoration works. So I would like to move off from WASA for the time being. We have NIDCO with us. Dr. Towsett did ask about landslips. And of course, NIDCO, what we will be doing with NIDCO, I mean, NIDCO is involved in a lot of things, major highways, bridge reconstruction, and all of those things. But the purpose of our discussion with NIDCO today is to deal primarily with landslips. And from what we understand from the response from NIDCO, is that you are given works by the Ministry of Works and Transport. You have been given 36 projects to date. And those are concerning specifically landslips. So I'll ask Member Ibrahim to start off the questioning with NIDCO, and then other members can join in accordingly.
Thank you, Chair. Reference is made to the landslip repair projects from NIDCO, which has been engaged by the Ministry of Works and Transportation to undertake, according to Appendix 1. I would like to comment on the dates for the projects as outlined. Furthermore, indicate whether projects that have been identified as yet to commence will commence in fiscal 2023-2024.
Thank you, Member. Through you, Chairman, I should like to defer to the President to address that, please. Question.
Okay. I'm also going to defer to Dennis because the procurement officer is here right now, and the yet to commence, we are actually in the procurement stage. But the exact date for these new procurement, Dennis.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. We would have presented in our submission at Appendix 1 the projects and the current status. And just to quickly summarize, the landscape program, as you rightfully indicated, is we are managing that program. The Ministry of Works and Transport remain our client in that regard, and it is being done. Currently, there are two phases under that program. Under phase 1 of the program, we previously completed 25 landslips. Those are not necessarily defined in this table, but we are currently into the second phase of this program, and within the list presented, there are 15 projects that are currently ongoing. Notwithstanding those yet to commence to date, there are 3 different areas. One would be projects that through the Ministry of Works and Transport, we have gotten approval to proceed, but for reasons of, and we came out of through WASA, but for reasons of utility relocation, either through TNTEC or WASA, we are waiting relocation works to be completed. Notwithstanding, within that, those lists not yet commenced, we also have packages that are within the procurement stage, perhaps at technical evaluation or financial evaluation or even further. And we have projects that are also, we have completed procurement and have submitted details to the line Ministry of Works and Transport, and are waiting permission to proceed. Within that list, we have also indicated projects that we are, of course, waiting guidance from the Ministry of Works and Transport as to proceeding with tender. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, Chairman, but that sort of gives a brief summary of our current program.
Yeah, Member Ibrahim, any follow-up?
Yes, sure. Although you have alluded to mainly tendering and processes for delays, your submission provided primary reasons for delays in the Coast Road and Landslip construction project. Can you please provide to us the projects that were delayed due to the inadequate supply of suitable aggregate to satisfy project needs?
Sure, and Chairman, through you again, and Dr. Townsend spoke about the different designs, well, his interest in the designs of a landslip or the landslip program. We have various landslips within the program that in some cases warrants larger quantities of aggregate, especially some of the larger ones in the south area. And within our specifications, there are explicit definition of the type of material. Some material would be used as general fill, some material structural fill. And these classifications, some are in fact available within the site, and then more explicitly, some must be imported from quarries outside, especially to treat with drainage, which warrants a cleaner type material, perhaps a material with a higher, what we describe in engineering term as a higher phi angle. And because of the special criteria of these materials, we would drive our contractors to go to the quarry with sort of control on their assurance to verify or to perhaps ensure these qualities are met. And because of that, our specification, our original specification, sometimes we have concern or there are issues where contractors are unable to source that material. Now, further, there might be quarries that are in fact able to supply these material, but these quarry operations are also hampered by perhaps inclement weather. In that inclement weather may stymie their operations for as much as 2 or 3 days, and all these work to hamper the program of works within these landslips.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haritaran. I understand that Member Richards, you have a question for NIDCO, and then after we go to Member Dinobraga, sorry, who has a question for APET.
Yes, Chairman. But before I go to the NIDCO question, I just want to make a brief statement. We appear before the Joint Select Committee to create solutions, to find solutions to problems, and we as members of this committee interface with members from different organizations. And I want to crave your indulgence, Chairman, so that we provide some sort of protection to some of the members. Not that they may need it, but we must protect the integrity of the proceedings. And I don't think that members should come here to be ridiculed and embarrassed. All wants to get the best out of this year for the entire country, and I think that we should carry about ourselves in a certain type of way. That is a statement. My question to NIDCO is, I know that they are the project managers for the highway to Point Fortin. Can we get an update for the public, for the listener, when that Abre section?
Member Richards, I really wanted to engage NIDCO with regards to landslips, in keeping with the objectives of the inquiry, because asking for an update on that project is going to take us away from the limited time we have, and maybe we can seek that information otherwise, but I much prefer we utilize the time remaining to engage them with regards to the landslips. So if it's okay with you, is there any specific aspect with regards to the landslips that you would like to ask of them?
So, Chairman, we are landslips, but I prefer the highway question answered. But I stand corrected by you, and I will seek that
All right. So yeah, if time allows, as before we wrap up, and there's time remaining, I'll revert to what you're asking. Okay, member. So okay, we go to member De Nobrega.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman, before I pose my question to APET, I know we have moved off of WASA. I just wanted to thank the representatives of WASA for the professional way in which they conducted themselves during this JSC, particularly in light of the disrespectful and unprofessional manner in which they were treated at times during today's proceedings. Chairman,
Member De Nobrega, could we please just proceed with the questioning?
I am proceeding, Chairman. Chairman, I was at a WASA, and this is not for WASA, this is actually for APET. But I was at a WASA opening in Paramin over the weekend. And while we were there, access to the various locations that we were looking at, we got there via concrete roads. And I was told by residents there and by people from the Ministry of Works, I believe, that in some cases those roads, and it was a road and swale drain design, were 30 years old. I wanted to get the input of APET with regards to the use of concrete cost-wise and longevity of the life of the road, as opposed to asphalt, and if those designs are still applicable in this country, and if they are more particularly suited for higher elevations. I know we're talking about retaining walls and landslips with NIDCO, but I would welcome their input into it as well. So, Chairman, I will leave the question there.
Okay, Dr. Townsend.
Well, Chairman, it's an interesting question from the honourable member. And in fact, not only is APET interested in this, but UE as well, because Dr. Leon, that's one of his specialty areas. But I would say generally, and then perhaps you'll fill in, the issue of what we call flexible versus rigid pavements has been one that has been discussed and debated for many, many years. And there are advantages and disadvantages of both. In particular, the problems of that particular terrain and the ability to get machinery for compacting may be one of the issues that would have led to the use of a rigid pavement, which is a reinforced concrete pavement, as opposed to a flexible pavement in terms of the hot mix asphalt surface, so to speak. So there's a different sort of underlying structure and surface course that is used. The other issue, of course, in terms of the pavement type is the climate and the susceptibility in terms of the impact of heat and the ability of your structure to withstand changes in temperature, as the case may be. The final issue there, as I said, I will leave the higher expertise in this area to Dr. Leon, is the area of maintenance and ease of maintenance of the pavement itself. But both are possible to be used. One would have to see the specific conditions under which one is operating to determine what is the best one to do. And by the way, both with proper maintenance can give you the longevity of 20 and 30 years in terms of the usable pavement structure. A lot of it depended upon the types of vehicles that were actually utilizing the surface and the roads. Are they heavy vehicles, as the case may be, or are they very much light vehicles? I would suspect that in that area, it is mainly light vehicles that will travel in that roadway. But perhaps Dr. Leon could add some more to it.
Dr. Leon.
Thank you very much, Chair. As Dr. Thompson said, the debates of concrete versus asphalt has been going on for a while. And both has their advantages and disadvantages. One of the main reasons, especially for the Caribbean region, why we don't use concrete roads too much, especially for the highways, is in terms of access. We want to access the road one time. So you use flexible pavement, and in a few hours you can access the road. Unlike concrete, it has to, it has to heal. So that's one of the issues why people go for flexible pavement versus concrete pavements. Dr. Thompson also touched on, especially for mountainous region, where you have difficulty in the equipment for compaction of the asphalt. You have concrete roads being done. So I wouldn't say there's a balance between the two. Also, in terms of sustainability as well as recycle, how much of the road can you recycle? Most times, it's easier to recycle an asphalt road. You can use more of the material. Unlike concrete, where you have to get rid of the recycling process, is much difficult, especially if you have fiber reinforced concrete. You really cannot put it back if you want to use it back as asphalt or as well as reinforced concrete, you have to look at removing the reinforcement and so on. So both of them has both the disadvantages and advantages. So it's all in terms of the particular situation, in terms of economics, in terms of sustainability. It has to be analyzed and choose which one the client really wants. But both of them can be used for roads in the Caribbean as well as in Trinidad.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. All right, so in terms of the landslips and NIDCO and the contracts, what we have observed from your responses, the committee has observed, is that essentially both the design and the supervision of the design is outsourced to consultants. And so I guess in terms of, you have told us that the entire aspect of quality control, supervision of construction, certification of payments and all of those things are more or less falls within the services that are outsourced to the consultants. But the question I'm asking with regards to the 36 landslips that you all are looking at, in terms of the collective wisdom from those particular projects, because remember, the consultants may have a package, they may do 3, they may do 4, they may do 5. But does NIDCO have a role in which, the collective experience in order to benefit us going down the road in terms of, the causes of the landslips? What contributed to the landslip in the first place? Secondly, across the board, is there any attempts by NIDCO to, in terms of standardization and categorization of landslips? And could there be modular approaches to the designs from effecting cost savings, minimizing the inputs of the consultants for every time having to come up with I could understand that there are unique aspects to the design as per the characteristics of the landslip. But are there attempts by NIDCO to standardize and to see how much of it could be modular type repairs? Also in terms of standardizing the methods that are used for landslips. Is NIDCO actually analyzing all that is going on, coming out of these landslip repairs that is going to serve us going down the road, particularly in terms of avoiding repetitive work from a design point of view, and choosing what is going to be the most appropriate method and appropriate materials for the respective landslips based on the type of soil and all of these things.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we have to be careful here. Very often, you find that one landslip is not identical to the other. Because when you look at what might cause the landslip, it might be a number of things. Drainage, poor drainage.
Mr. George, I did mention that it's not going to be identical, but whether they are you all looking at whether they are common characteristics that could be brought to bear on the solutions, and whether or not by doing that we can effect cost savings, having the repairs done in a much faster time as well.
Yes. All right. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Chairman. Invariably, the design is preceded by that. When I say in the engineering design of the retaining structure is preceded by geotechnical investigation to see what really caused that landslip. Is it a slip circle? Is it a soil problem? You know, and on the basis of that, a fix or a solution is determined. At that stage where we have to do a retaining wall. Let's say we have to do a retaining wall. The stem of that wall is 3 meters. One can get a modular design for that, because you could have retaining walls in all sorts of heights, and you can go to a chart, and get a detail for that. So that aspect can be, you can have a modular design for that, but what goes before it is what is important, and that is where the design liability is greatest. You have to understand what has happened. So these engineers, they'll retain the geotechnical services of a suitable engineer, determine what has to be done, and from there on, it could be a little bit more straightforward in terms of the retaining structure that they eventually come up with. But when we go to those engineers for that service, they will do that investigation, do the design, and invariably we will do the project management and the implementation of the fix. We will preside over that.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Towson, would you like to comment here at this point, the overall aspects of landslip and anything particular you would like to ask?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. I will certainly want to invite my colleague, Mr. Raghunandan, who's our geotechnical expert in the team here. And I know he has some opinions that he would want to share with the members of the committee.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend. Further to what Mr. George had to contribute, while there may be similarities in, like, for example, the soil type, for example, in South Trinidad, where the soil type is where you have these land slippages occurring, I mean, you could probably classify them as the same. Again, the depth to which you have failure may vary from landslip to landslip. So having one design for all would not work, because, again, some retaining walls would need to be taller than others, and some may require additional drainage mechanisms to help drain these soils. So each landslip should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. If we move to North Trinidad, on the other hand, we could possibly classify some of the failures or failures of having the same mechanism and treat with similar type solutions to deal with those. So again, landslip causes are numerous. Many times they are not only one specific cause, but a combination of causes that come together to create the landslip. So a lot of different triggering mechanisms may take place. It's just that one, as we say, is sure to break the camel's back. So we mustn't look at just one item, but look at water, soils, slope development, whether it be cutting, loading, whatever it is. So there are a lot of factors that actually contribute to slippages occurring. And again, these should be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I think the point was not that we not look at it on a case-by-case basis. It's unique. Each landslip is unique. So it's just a question of how much of the elements of the repair could be standardized, one with regards to getting it done faster and getting it done at a much more economic price. But we won't pursue the discussion. We also have with us, what I was trying to get from NITCO, is out of all the consultancies and everything that is given out, because everybody is looking at their landslip as a particular contract that they have to design and all that sort of thing. But whether or not there is a collating effect, collating exercise that is done by NIDCO that could really identify, prevalent factors then that contribute to landslips, and whether the identification of those factors could lead to preventative measures to avoid us from getting to the point of having these major landslips, whether there are initial signs that could be picked up by the road technicians, what to look for, and all of those things. And but we probably get into that by asking for specific, maybe asking further questions for specific responses in writing. Before we also engage TNTech, because we have TNTech with us, and who have been there patiently waiting. At least we hope they're still there. And just for NIDCO, in one of the responses to our question 15, in terms of alternative paving materials, you did indicate to us that you have used cement lime base and sub-base stabilization, base strengthening using foam bitumen, and recycled asphalt pavement. Now, what I would like to ask is that if you could provide with the committee in writing as to which locations, which landslip repairs that were undertaken, where you did use the cement lime base and sub-base stabilization. Cement lime to do both base and sub-base stabilization, where you had base strengthening using foam bitumen, and where there were instances of using recycled asphalt pavement. If you could provide the committee with those instances in writing. If you could also provide us with the with your opinion as to how successful those alternative paving materials, pavement structure materials, how successful it was used, and your recommendations for going forward. In that, could the scale be expanded? What are the factors that would affect the expansion of the scale of use of these alternative materials in the restoration of landslips? Particularly seeing that cement and both lime are available locally, and if we use that with the soil that is there, the soil cement or the lime stabilized soil, if you could indicate to us as to the cost effectiveness as well in the instances that it have been used, that would help the committee, because a lot of mention has been made about alternative paving materials, rather than total dependence on the naturally occurring aggregates that we have. Bitumen, which is now has to be imported, even though it's in some cases it's blended with the Trinidad Lake asphalt. But if we can get a picture from you, because you have distinctly mentioned it in your response to us, if you can inform us accordingly, so that we can assess, the potential of these materials as alternatives in the repair works. Mr. George, am I clear?
I was just about to add that we shall certainly oblige, but I just want to clarify something. These approaches here refer or apply more to pavements rather than landslip repairs, right? So they are not rarely used for landslips, but they are certainly used in the construction of flexible pavements in areas where, you know, pole bearing, things like that, heavily high clays, things like that, you know. So I just want to make that correction. So you will not be disappointed when we do submit the information that you're asking for, Mr. Chairman.
Why it caught my attention, particularly regards to landslip, I don't know if you would remember many decades ago, there was a massive landslip on Sir Solomon Pochoy, that highway there, approaching the Claxton Bay interchange. That remained, it cut down the two dual carriageways into one for many years. And soil cement stabilization was used extensively in that repair, very successfully, when a lot of other things were looked at. And this is why when I saw base stabilization and sub-base, it caught my attention, because in terms of the backfill to the landslip areas, I mean, after we put up walls and all of those things, and the backfill material, whether or not soil cement stabilized soil could be utilized effectively, and if it contributes to the stability of the slope itself, whether the savings there would be savings effected in terms of not so massive retaining walls and all of those things. But in crafting a reply, if you could take those things into consideration, we'll appreciate it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so if we go to we'll go to TNTech. Mr. Francois, you're still there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Yes, okay. What we'd like to ask of you is, how much of a problem is landslips for you with regards to your areas of responsibility and your infrastructure?
All right. So landslips over the years have not been that significant. However, within the last 5.5 years, we have seen a marked increase both in the prevalence of outages due to landslips, as well as in the associated cost of repair or replacement of our infrastructure. So if I give an example, we would have had in the last 5.5 years spent roughly $9.1 million in replacement of plants, repair and replacement of plants, and we'd have had a total of 203 outages based on landslips and landslides. However, in the last 2.5 years, the cost was $8.5 million. So you realize that it has been increasing in terms of the extensiveness of it. It has increased in the last 2.5 years, such that the majority of our costs within that within the last 5.5 years was spent in that last 2 years, 2.5 years. We also had some 123 incidents of outages during that period. Right. So yes, it has now become a significant problem for us. Certain areas such as Maracas, the North Coast Road, Winter Maracas and Blackie Shares have been a perennial problem. Mayaro, the Manzanilla stretch has become, well, over the last year, I think it was, we have significant issues there. Those are some of the areas. Matlot is one of the areas too that we have a fair amount of problem with landslides and landslips. So while it has not been a perennial problem, it is now escalated to a point where we have some significant concerns, particularly with respect to our transmission infrastructure, where we would have had a failure of a tower on our Union Veteran Castle circuit, right? That is a 120 volt KV, 120 kV circuit. sorry, 220 kV circuit, sorry. And that circuit, was compromised, would have been last year. And the repairs for that alone was in excess of $1 million. So I'm just saying, those are the kinds of issues that we've had, and that we are treating with. Now, what we are doing in terms of, having to manage that scenario is we are in the process of securing some emergency restoration towers. We are probably in the final stages of the procurement process. And that will help in terms of the facilitating a speedy reinstallation of a temporary tower prior to the permanent installation of one. We already have mobile substations. We have 10 mobile substations that we use on a regular basis at the remote areas that will help to also bring a speedy supply to areas that are impacted. So the direct impact certainly is the outage and the damages. The indirect impact that we face would be things like the access. So the access to the site are certainly one of the issues whenever we have a landslide and a road blockage and an outage at the same time. It delays our restoration of supply to customers. So that's another serious impact. All right. As well as our damage assessment and so on. But and on that front, what we have also done is to utilize technology in terms of employed drones. We now have a fleet of 12 drones, and we utilize that, to go into areas that we cannot immediately access. So yes, we are challenged, but we are treating the challenges in new and innovative ways. Right. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Francois. Member Morris Julian, you had a question for TNT?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I have a question from the public, actually. They just sent it in to me. The person wants to know, seeing that there are no water pipes running along these areas, can TNTech please tell us what is the main causes of these landslips that occur?
Right. So the areas that I would have mentioned, pretty much the causes are due to natural acts of God. We would have had after severe flooding and rain, the Manzanero Road was seriously compromised, and that impacted on our wetlands in that area. And in areas like Matlot and the North Coast Road, we have the areas are fairly hilly. Our lines in those areas tend to go ridge to ridge, and are compromised whenever we have a landslip occurring on the peak of the ridge coming down. Our lines are impacted by that. So I would say it's more related to the climate change and the increase in the disasters we have in the natural disasters is more related to that than man-made, I would say.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Chairman. I'm so relieved. I thought for a moment they would have said it was leaks from Massa. So, Chairman, I just have one more question from TNTech, right? Non-outage type of situations. You said in your reply, the Commission has to employ more costly solutions to ensure the security of its infrastructure and safety of the public. I need to have that statement elaborated on. Through you, Chairman.
Mr. Francois?
It will be in response to question 11 on page 3. 11. Okay.
Right. So the more costly solutions really relate to providing the equipment, now I would have indicated that we would have procured some mobile substations. We are actually procuring some more mobile substations. So because what we recognize is that in the remote areas, we need to ensure that we have plants stationed almost permanently. So like in the Bradshaw-Niles area, we have one of the mobile substations stationed there permanently, so that when we have an issue, we can ensure a supply to the area, an ongoing supply. So we are actually procuring some 2 megawatts. We have now is 1 and 500 kilowatts. 2 megawatts will be a bit more costly, but it is going to.
Chairman, for some reason, TNTech is dipping. I don't know if it's my side or their side. Is it possible that this information be sent us in writing? An elaboration of the statement where the agency is unable to respond to non-outage type situations that are critical in nature. The Commission has to employ more costly solutions to ensure the security of its infrastructure and safety of public. And also, just a quick answer through you, Chairman. Just give us, for my edification in particular, what is an example of a non-outage type situation? Because I have a weird imagery in my mind and I really want to know if that is it. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Francois.
Okay, all right. Are you all hear me a little bit better?
Yes, we are.
Okay. We have to do a road diversion. So I should say a line diversion to cater for a landslip or some issue with the road that has to be treated with. We have to then relocate our plant, probably from one side of the road to the next, and that would be quite a number of poles and conductors, transformers, and other plants, and that tends to be very costly for us. All right, so that is one of the, I would say, non-outage type situations that can occur.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Francois. Just one final question before we wrap up. I see Member Nobrega has his hand up, but before I go to him, in terms of your transmission towers in particular, as a preventative measure, does TNTech intend to do any vulnerability analysis of your critical transmission towers with regards to those that may be susceptible to landslips based on, the locations, the type of soil, the slopes, and etc.? Are you thinking about it?
Okay, I would pass you on to Mr. Nigel Bob, our acting CQ, to answer that question. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. Thanks for your question, Mr. Chair. So, in terms of our transmission infrastructure, we do have plans to do vulnerability assessment. As a matter of fact, it is all part of an assessment we're doing in order to deal with hardening our electrical network to deal with climate change and adverse weather events that may happen. So we are in the initial stage of doing those type of vulnerability assessment, not just on transmission, but on our distribution network as well. However, in terms of our transmission network, we do have a richer program of inspection, as Mr. Francois would have mentioned, in terms of using drones and using our various inspection mechanisms in order for us to identify any situation where you may have land slippages that could impact on our infrastructure. And then we would take the necessary steps to mitigate against severe slippages by putting retaining structures. So we have installed quite a few retaining structures to support our transmission towers at various locations throughout the country in order to mitigate against any sort of slippages that could create situations similar to what Mr. Francois mentioned that occurred on our Union Gandhi line in Lucilla that occurred last in August, where that tower was actually bent and resulted in rolling outages across the country. So we are looking at different stages and different mechanisms in order to deal with those situations you mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bob. Yeah, Member Dinobrega, I'll allow you the last question before we wrap up.
Thank you, Chairman. Very short. I just want to get an idea from TNTech as to the relationship with other agencies in terms of being made aware of issues that their infrastructure may face, especially where, well, of course, we're talking about landslips in particular. So in the event of landslips, what is the reporting relationship like? Are you all made aware in a timely fashion to ensure that, one, your own infrastructure is not damaged because it's been left in a precarious situation for too long, and two, that that citizens in that area are not affected in terms of their own service?
Yes, Mr. Francois.
Right. So a lot of it would be based on the extent of the issue. So based on the extent of the issue, if it is, as I said, based on natural disaster, we do get calls from customers, because customers would either have their supply interrupted, or they may see a fuel leaning dangerously. So in those instances, we get calls from customers. If it is due to one of the other agencies that are doing work, we do have a very collaborative relationship with all of the agencies, ODPM, Ministry of Works, WASA. They do contact us in a very proactive way whenever things are being done and our plant is being affected. So I can't say I have any big issues in terms of that level of collaboration or information from customers as and when required.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Francois. So we wrap up, but we do have two questions from the public. One is, in terms of the squatting problem that we have, particularly in terms of the squatting on hillsides and close to in hilly terrain. How much of a problem is that in terms of contributions to landslips? That is one question. So maybe I could ask maybe NIDCO, based on the experience you have had so far with landslips, to answer that one. And then the second question would be a member of the public wants to know from WASA, in terms of your restoration works, if consideration has been given to the use of reinforced steel plates to be placed over excavations to ensure that access for the public is maintained, for the driving public is maintained.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Dr. Townsend, yeah. We will welcome your inputs here on the question of the squatters and the landscape.
Not a hard question, Chairman. I will speak after that matter. Not on the issue of this one.
No, I was about to, but you did ask for my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
Squatters do not damage hillside. It's wealthy people who go on the hillside and sculpture it, do all kinds of a thing, and that causes the problem. A squatter goes on the hillside and builds in, it just take it as it is, and it builds into the hillside, or builds on the hillside. The wealthy people go and they build into the hillside, and in doing so, they sort of disrupt the angles and so on the hillside. Now, I'm not implying that people should go squat on the hillside, but I don't think they are the ones who do the damage to the hillside.
Okay, so Mr. Nanga, very quickly, could you just respond to the member of the public who was asking about it? use of reinforced steel plates?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And yes, the short answer is yes. Where we are undertaking works where there's the need for extensive excavation, in the event we are not completed, for example, and we have to return to the site, steel plate will be placed over the excavated trench. Similarly, where, for example, if it's a very deep trench and we can't do temporary road restorations at that time due to, for example, lack of material, of course, we will use the steel plates, number one, as a form of securing the site to have it safe, as well as to not disrupt traffic flow for a very extended period. So yes, we do use steel plates as a temporary measure.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Townsend, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just to add to what the Chairman of NITCO is saying, not to contradict, but the one issue in terms of hillside damage is in fact runoff from roofs that is not being channeled properly. And the problem with unplanned house construction is that they do not plan where the effluent from the rainwater off the roofs is going to actually pour. And that could cause a lot of saturation of the hillsides downstream. So that that is one aspect of it. Of course, the other aspect of it is that the more that we have concrete and other kind of structures on, as opposed to soil for percolation, is the more we have another problem as well in terms of the speed of runoff and that kind of stuff. So it's all about unplanned development and bad engineering in terms of development. And if I'm that, the last thing I want to say, that a lot of the problems we are seeing is because of bad engineering, design, and implementation. And I want to stress the need for registered engineers to be involved with the design and implementation of remedial works for landslips and for the design of proper road pavements. I think that is something which we may be lacking. We need to ensure that, so to get proper engineering, you need to have proper engineers. And the engineers must be, we strongly advocate registration, because registration is a way in which you ensure that the engineer that you are using has the competence and the knowledge to do the job that they are supposed to do. And I'm making a plug for that in the context of a lot of the problems we are seeing, which are a consequence of bad engineering. You can't get away from it. And if you want good engineering, we need to have good engineers doing the work and getting the results. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Right. So, Dr. Townsend, that's a good point to end our exercise here today. So, what I'll do, we'll come back to the respective entities, and we are requesting very brief closing remarks from each entity. So, we'll go in a certain order. We can start with Mr. Nanga from WASA.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman, members of the committee. It was indeed a pleasure to attend, and we certainly hope that we would have provided assistance. We undertake to provide the further assistance asked of us during the course of the hearing, and even beyond that, if we can be of any further assistance. We wish to assure the committee, as well as the members of the public, in the context of the transformation, a lot of the matters that were raised today would have been matters that we would have inherited when we came in. We have developed procedures and systems in place to address those. Of course, given the extent of the difficulties that we face, it will take some time for the population to see and to feel the effects of the transformation. But with the assistance of our Honorable Minister, the Ministry of Public Utilities, Ministry of Finance, and most importantly, the IDB funding, we are well on the way of fixing a lot of those ills that have been the subject of this committee. And we give the assurance, the current executive, the board of directors, on behalf of the minister, board of commissioners, sorry, and on behalf of the minister, we give the undertaking that we will continue with our work towards bringing and raising the standards that WASA would have performed in the past. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nanga. Mr. Francois? Yeah, Mr. Francois, you're muted, so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the Joint Select Committee and the viewing public for this discussion. It was very valuable for us. I would like to just add that TNTEC is committed to providing the nation with a reliable, safe, and high quality supply of energy, electrical energy, and we have a cadre of highly skilled and trained employees to deliver this, right? Linesmen, technicians, electricians, engineers, and we all come together with one common purpose, to bring this, a first class supply to this country. And I think by and large we are doing it. And even with these challenges, we will continue to utilize the latest technology to ensure that our mandate is indeed achieved. So with that, I'd like to say thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. George?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Although we are not as involved in landslip repairs as some other agencies, we are quite thrilled, or it was quite informative for us to be part of this session this afternoon. Most of our jobs, they are, as the president of APET said, they're well engineered, because we use a range of engineers, and so to do the design, we need not just structural engineers, but geotechnical ones as well to check slip circles and what have you. So they're well engineered, but even over and above that, I think there is a need for these slip-prone areas to be inspected periodically. So, for example, if there is to be a landslip on a roadway, well, on the side of the road, usually you find that there is some crack, longitudinal crack developing along the road, or you find that the shoulder is settling, and those will be telltale signs that something is about to happen. So when those things happen, one can take steps to start checking it out. Bring in your geotechnical person, start checking it out, so that you can add a fix before the landslip and the damage becomes more pronounced. So that plus drainage, that is key to sort of preserving some of the areas that we have and preventing landslips. So I hope that that sort of information can go out to the various agencies that are involved with the repairs of landslips. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. George. Definitely we'll be taking that up more with the Ministry of Works and Transport when we do engage them again. And also you, Mr. George, in your capacity at the newly formed CIRIC. We would be exploring exactly what you raised there in more detail. We did so previously, but we have to address it in more detail at our next hearing. So, Dr. Townsend, closing remarks?
Well, I think I thought I did. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we at the APET, we are very concerned about, as I said, the quality of the engineering, and that even the issues that Mr. George has raised in terms of the inspection of hillsides, the inspection of roadways on a routine basis. And that is really not NITCO's remit, that is more the remit of the regional corporations and in some cases, the Ministry of Works and Transport. But it has to be done, and that is an engineering function as well. And I want people to understand that is an engineering function. That's part and parcel of what your senior engineers should be ensuring are done in these organizations. So I think we need to examine that much more carefully. But we at APET stand very willing, and we are very happy to have had the opportunity to engage and to share with the members of the committee and the members of the agencies. And we stand ready to assist wherever we can in pursuance of a better Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Townsend. And Dr. Lillian.
Thank you, Chair. We at UE are very pleased and very delighted to be part of the discussion today, where you brought together academics, you brought industry leaders, government officials to discuss and promote sustainable development as well as ensuring the well-being of our citizens. I want to close by saying that we at UE, we are open to the idea of collaborating with other institutions and stakeholders to forge positive partnerships and contribute to the collective efforts to improve the condition of our road networks. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you much, Dr. Leon. So in closing, I'd just like to thank all the representatives who have been here. Thank you very much for your contributions. To thank the viewing and listening audience. To thank all my fellow committee members for their inputs into this meeting. To thank the Secretariat to the committee, headed by Mr. Johnson Greenwich, and also to thank the Parliament's broadcasting staff for making this whole thing virtual production possible. So thanks everyone, and I'll now declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.